Hi guys, welcome back to Christy's Book Corner. I'm your host, Christy Mason, and we're going to continue with Inkheart by Cornelia Funk. And today's chapter is chapter 26. Chapter 6 was like a few days ago on the 6th of October, so yeah. Or whenever it was. This book is a bit longer than a month. Okay, chapter 26. Shivers down the spine and a boarding. That's weird. Dustfinger sat on the chilly stone steps, waiting. He felt sick with fear, but he wasn't quite sure of what. Perhaps the war memorial behind him reminded him too much of death. He had always been afraid of death, which he imagined as cold, too, like a night without fire. Now, however, he dreaded something else even more. Its name was sorrow, and it had been stalking him like a second shadow ever since Silvertongue lured him into this world. Sorrow that made his limbs heavy and turned the sky gray. Beside him, the boy was running up and down the steps, up and down tirelessly, with light feet and cheerful face, as if Silvertongue had led him straight into paradise. What could be making him so happy? Dustfinger looked around at the narrow houses, pale yellow, pink, peach, the dark green shutters at the windows, and the rusted red tiles on the roofs. An oleander flowering in front of all walls as if its branches were on fire. Cats stalking past the warm walls. Farid stole up to one of them, stroking its gray hair, and put it on his lap, although it dug its claws into his thighs. You know what people do to keep the numbers of cats down around here? Dustfinger stretched his legs and blinked up at the sun. When winter comes, they take their own cats indoors for safety. Then they put out dishes of poisoned food for the strays. Farid still fondled the gray cat's pointed ears, but his face was rigid and grim. Not a face left of happiness that had just made it look so soft and open. Dustfinger glanced quickly aside. Why had he said that? Had the happiness on the boy's face upset him so much? Farid let the cat go and climbed the steps to the memorial. He was still sitting there on the wall, legs drawn up. When the other two came back, Silvertongue had no book with him, and he looked strained. His guilty conscience was clearly visible on his face. Why? What could have made Silvertongue look so guilty? Dustfinger glanced suspiciously around without knowing quite what he was looking for. Silvertongue's face always showed his feelings. He was an open book, which any stranger could read. His daughter was different. It wasn't so easy to make out what was going on in her mind. But now, as she came toward him, Dustfinger thought he saw something like concern in her eyes. Perhaps even pity. What had the writer fellow said to make the girl look at him like that? He got up and brushed the dust off his pants. No copies left. Am I right? He said, when the two of them had reached them. You're right. They're all been stolen, replied Silvertongue. Yes, years ago. His daughter never took her eyes off Dustfinger. Why are you staring at me like that, princess? He snapped. Do you know something I don't? Bullseye, an accidental one, too. He added he hadn't wanted to score a bullseye at all. Certainly not a direct hit on the uncomfortable truth. The girl bit her lip. She looked still looking at him with that same mixture of pity and concern. Dustfingers rubbed his hands over his face, feeling his scars on it like a picture postcard saying, "Greetings from Basta." He could never forget Capricorn's rabid dog for a single day, even if he wanted to help you please the girls even better in the future. Basta had hissed in his ear before wiping the blood off his knife. "Oh, curse it all." Dustfinger kicked the nearest wall so hard that he felt the pain in his foot for days to come. "You've told that writer about me," he accused Mo, "and now even your daughter knows more about me than I do. Very well, out with it. I want to know, too. Now, too. Tell me. You always wanted to tell me, after all. Basta hangs me. Is that it? Strings me up and tightens the noose until I'm dead, as a doornail, right? But why should that bother me? Basta is in this world now, isn't he? The story's changed. It might have changed. Basta can't hurt me if he just sends me back there where I belong." Dustfinger took a steep step towards Silvertongue, as if to grab him, shake him, take out him all out that had been done to himself. But Maggie came between them. "Stop it! It's not Basta," she cried, pushing him away. "It's one of Capricorn's men, and he's waiting for you in the book. They want to kill Gwyn, and you try to help him, so they kill you instead. Nothing about that has changed. It will simply happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. Do you understand? You must stay here. You can't go back ever." Dustfinger stared at the girl as if he could shut her up that way, but she held his gaze. She even tried to take his hand. "You should be glad to be here," she faltered as he retreated from her. "You can't escape from them here. You can go away, far away," and her voice quivered. Perhaps she had seen the tears in Dustfinger's eyes. Angrily he wiped them away with his sleeve, and looked around like an animal in a trap, searching for some way out. But there was no way out. No going forward, and even worse, no going back. A trio of women standing at the bus stop glanced curiously in his direction. Dustfinger often attracted such glances. Anyone could see he didn't belong here. A stranger forever. 3 children and an old man were playing football with a tin can on the other side of the square. Fred looked at them. The Arab boy had Dustfinger's backpack over his narrow shoulders, and gray cat hairs clung to his pants. He was deep in thought, wrinkling his bare toes into those gaps between the paving stones. He was always taking off the sneakers Dustfinger had bought him, and going around barefoot, even on hot tarmac, with his shoes tied to the backpack, not paperback, like loot he had taken from home. Silvertongue looked at the playing children too. Had he given some sign to the old man with them? The old fellow left the children and came over to Dustfinger. To step back. Dustfinger took a step back. A shiver ran down his spine. "My grandchildren have been admiring the tame marten the boy has on his chain," said the old man as he approached. Dustfinger took another step backward. Why was the dark-haired man looking at him like that, in quite a different way than a woman at the bus stop? "The children say the marten can do tricks, and the boy's a fire eater. Perhaps we could come to the show and watch it at close range." The cold shiver spread throughout Dustfinger, although the sun was shining down on him. The way the old man looked at him, as if he were a dog who had run away long ago and was now back, tail between his legs, perhaps with lice in his coat, but different the old man's dog. "Nonsense! We don't do tricks," he managed to say. "There's nothing to see here." He retreated again, but the old man followed him. as if they were linked by an invisible thread. "I'm sorry," said the old man, raising a hand as if to touch Dustfinger's scared face. Dustfinger's back came up against the parked car. Now the old man was standing right in front of him, still staring. "Go away!" Dustfinger pushed him roughly back. "Farid, bring me my things." The boy hurried to his side. Dustfinger snatched the backpack from his hand, picked up the marten, and stowed him in the backpack, taking no notice of the animal's sharp nails and sharp, snapping teeth. The old man stared at Gwyn's horns, fingers flying. Dustfinger slung the backpack over his shoulder and tried to push him past him. "Please, I only want to talk to you." The old man bared his way, reaching for his arm. "Well, I don't want to talk to you." Dustfinger tried to free himself from the bony fingers. They were surprisingly strong. But Dustfinger had the knife, Basset's clasp knife. He took it out of his pocket, snapped it open, and held it under the old man's chin. His hand was trembling. He had never enjoyed threatening anyone with a knife, but the old man let go, and Dustfinger ran. He ignored whatever Silvertongue was calling after him. He just ran for it, as he had often done in the past. He could trust his legs even if he didn't yet know where they were taking him. He left the village and the road behind, dodging under some trees, ran through wild grass, plunging in among the mustard yellow brimming bushes. Let the silvery foliage of the olive trees hit him. He had to get away from the houses, away from the paved roads. Wild country had always protected him. Only when every breath he drew hurt him, didn't throw himself down into the long grass behind an abandoned cistern where frogs, croaked and the rainwater had collected among the gray stones steamed in the sun. He lay there gasping, listening to his own heartbeat, staring at the sky. He jumped. "Who's that?" The boy stood there. Farid had followed him. "Go away!" shouted Dustfinger. The boy crouched down among the wild flowers that grew everywhere, blue and yellow and red splashes of bright color in the grass. I don't want you," snapped Dustfinger. The boy said nothing, but picked a wild orchid and examined the bloom. It looked like a bumblebee on the tip of the flower stem. "What a strange flower," he murmured. "I've never seen one like that before." Dustfinger sat up and leaned against the side of the cistern. "You'll be sorry if you keep running after me," he said. "I'm going back. You know where to." Only when he said it didn't he realize that he had made up his mind long ago. Yes, he was going back. Dustfinger, the crowd, was going back into the lion's den. Never mind what Silvertongue said, nor what his daughter thought. There was only one thing he wanted. He had never wanted anything else, and if he couldn't have it now, then at least he could hope that one day his wish would come true. The boy stayed sitting there. "Go away, will you? Go back to Silvertongue. He'll look after you." Farid sat there unmoved, his arms around his knees. "You're going back to that village?" "Yes, the village where the devils and demons live. Believe me, they'll kill you, boy, like a boy like you, and eat you for breakfast. You'll enjoy the coffee all the more afterwards." Farid stroked his cheeks with the orchid. He made a face as the petals tickled his chin. "Gwyn wants to get out," he said. He was right. The marten was biting the fabric of the backpack and sticking his muzzle out of it. Dustfinger undid the straps and freed him. Gwen blinked up at the sun, chattering crossly, presumably complaining that it was the wrong time of day, and scurried over to the boy. Farid picked him up, put him on his shoulder, and looked earnestly at Dustfinger. "I've never seen flowers like this," he repeated. "Oh, such green hills! Oh, such a clever martin! But I know a lot about this kind of men you mean. They're the same everywhere." Dustfinger shook his head. "These are particularly bad." "No, not particularly." The defiant in Farid's voice made Dustfinger laugh. He himself didn't know why. "We could go somewhere else." "We could go somewhere else," said the boy. "No, we couldn't." "Why not? What are you planning to do in that village?" "Steal something," said Dustfinger. The boy nodded as if stealing were the most natural plan in the world, and carefully put the orchid in his pants pocket. "Will you teach me a little more about fire first, before we go there?" "Before," Dustfinger couldn't help smiling. The boy was clever-headed, and no doubt he knew there wouldn't be any after. "Of course," he said. "I'll teach you everything I know before we go there." That's the end of chapter 26. Tomorrow will be chapter 27 and 28, because it is a short chapter. Or chapters 27 and 28, they're short chapters. So we will read those tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and remember to hit the notification bell to be notified when I upload another video. And please, let's have this. It's a like on the video, not a dislike, but a like, and a comment what you liked about the chapter. Why do you think Dustfinger wants to go back to the Capricorn's village? And why is this Farid following him? Like, what does he see in Dustfinger? Let me know what you think. And remember to dare to dream.